Ari Melber had Hakeem Jeffries on and asked him about Zohran Mamdani and asked him if it's a good thing for the party because we now have the official numbers. Zohran got the most votes in the history of New York City mayoral primaries. And he did that by turning out parts of the electorate that were disaffected, that didn't engage in politics, maybe as a high propensity voter. These are the kinds of voters that Democrats have lost over the years.
Alienated actively.
And right, with the suburban Republican strategy. And so there's a lot of consultants and wealthy Democrats and Democratic leadership that's their constituency. Like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer need to hang their hat, and particularly Schumer, because he's the one that was a big part of spearheading this. Their constituency is now like what they have cultivated, which are upper middle class suburban Republicans versus what Mamdani did, which is creating a working class coalition, despite what you'll hear printed as fact in papers. Mamdani won voters really starting at around 55K to 150K. And once the wealthier donors started to vote, that's the voters that Cuomo won. But it's still being framed as it's like, oh, the well-educated white liberals carried him over the finish line. And there's in part truth that Brooklyn showed out a lot, parts of Manhattan showed out a lot, but that's not the story. It's just not what happened. This is the kind of thing that should be replicated across the country. And what's fascinating is I think that you see some Democratic aligned pundits or whatever, they're starting to see that this is an issue that the leadership of the party is more focused seemingly on tamping down this energy that the party so desperately needs than they are combating Republicans effectively. And here is Melber asking kind of point blank of Hakeem Jeffries why they're not more enthusiastic. This is the thing, they're getting young people involved. You're supposed to care about that. This was apparently the problem, but not like this.
Mamdani came out of nowhere with less money, less fame, beat the Democratic establishment, beat Mario Cuomo. I should say Andrew Cuomo, son of Mario Cuomo, known in New York. Is that a good thing for the Democratic Party?
Well, he ran a tremendous race. He outworked the opposition. He out-communicated the opposition. He out-organized the opposition. And I think one of the things that was key about what he was able to do is that he ran directly at the issue of affordability. Across every age demographic, it's the number one issue in the city of New York. Now, he articulated a very provocative platform in that regard. I look forward to sitting down and talking to him about his plans to actually implement that platform to deal with some of the challenges that the communities that I face are dealing with in terms of gentrification.
Gentrification, he says.
Yep.
He gave a quote, his staffer gave a quote, and we read this yesterday, it got me pretty heated on CNN, where they called his coalition Team Gentrification because Jeffries, his district, it went to Mamdani. Instead of embracing the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party who won his district, he's saying this to MSNBC, a more liberal audience, and then having his top political staffer say to CNN disparaging remarks about the movement on the other end. And then the quote that is so notable in this article is that they basically threaten the DSA members with primary challenges in the body of the piece. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is focused on taking back the House from the MAGA extremists. By the way, no Republicans there. This is Sam's, the bee in his bonnet, that they calling them this focus tested thing from a consultant as opposed to saying it's the Republicans. The MAGA extremists who ripped healthcare away from millions of Americans, Jeffries senior advisor Andre Richardson told CNN. However, if Team Gentrification wants a primary fight, our response will be forceful and unrelenting. We will teach them and all their incumbents a painful lesson on June 23rd, 2026. You mean like the painful lesson that Zohran just taught the Democratic establishment by winning by 12 points?
Yeah, I don't know if Farah Sufront Forrest is part of Team Gentrification, according to Jeffries, or not, but she tweeted this out. Weird threat to make, since Hakeem already went after Jabari Brisport and I. How'd that go for him again? 2022 primary results. Brisport, 70%. Farah got 67%. If a leader wants another public beatdown, he knows where to find him. These are empty, idle threats from these folks. Bring it on. Cannot shy away from this sort of thing. Absolutely not.
Brisport
Also,
would be a formidable primary challenge to Hakeem Jeffries.
Great.
Right. Also, I just love the idea that like they go after them for I guess like Mamdani or Brisport or any of these left-wing politicians or people who run for office. And the thing they automatically go at them for is, their voter base is gentrifiers. Gentrification is the issue here. The funny thing is, like Mamdani, one of his policies would help very much so. You know, they talk. Jeffries talking about the affordability thing that he ran on and Mamdani ran on and won. The freezing the rent for rent stabilized apartments. Those aren't gentrifiers living in those apartments. Those are lifelong New Yorkers or people who've lived in New York for a very long time who have rent stabilized apartments for the most part. Yet these guys always bring up that as, that's not going to help. That's not going to help. We don't want him to do that. It's amazing that like the thing that would actually help the non-gentrifiers, these New York natives, such as myself, for example, they go after those policies that help those people, but then knock the gentrifiers, claiming that they're the ones who will really be the ones to help the native, lifelong New Yorkers. It's amazing.
But no,
to watch
it's even worse than that. And you're making great points. It's just they're stoking divisions within the electorate by calling other people gentrifiers, as if this is like an active choice by people who are getting priced out of Manhattan to displace black and brown communities. This is a systemic problem that Mamdani is addressing, and they're like, for all of his talk about affordability, he's trying to pit New Yorkers against one another to cement his hold on power. And I think that's really gross, to be honest.
It is, and it's all in service of serving the same political donors that are ultimately underpinning both parties right now. Because I think what we're seeing in the very targeted, very venomous antagonism from, the left, right, and not left, but like the center left, liberal aligned media apparatus, as well as the New York Post and more conservative media, is that for both parties, but I think especially the Democratic Party, Mamdani represents a threat, not to the Democratic Party itself as an institution, but to the current establishment. The current, people who are in charge and want to be taking money from billionaires. And I think we can see from their behavior so far, their plan for the midterms and their plans for the next general election is to just let Trump basically have his way with the American people, with the American economy, make life as bad as possible while they make as few concrete promises as possible, because they want to be able to coast in on anti-Republican ideology. They want to be able to coast in just based on not being Trump, and they never want to be responsible for actively trying to uplift people's lives in a comprehensive way. And that's what Mamdani's doing. And he's, teaching people that they might demand more from the Democratic Party.
Exactly.
Right.
All right,
And displacement.
Go back like
and a whole host
10
of other
seconds. Yeah. Sorry.
Provocative platform in that regard. I look forward to sitting down and talking to him about his plans to actually implement that platform to deal with some of the challenges that the communities that I face are dealing with in terms of gentrification and displacement. And
He just won those communities massively in the mayoral primary, big guy, but go ahead.
a whole host of other issues that I would normally talk about with any Democratic nominee, and certainly we'll talk about with our particular Democratic nominee in the context of the mayoral race. I think one of the things that we'll continue to try to do at the national level is to lean in aggressively to Donald Trump's failure to address the high cost of living. He promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, going up. Inflation is on the way up. Life remains far too expensive for the American people.
I got to tell
Democrats
you,
want to do something about it.
Respectfully, I see the pivot. You're good at this. That's how you got this job. But then I got to rephrase the question. You're not ready yet to say whether it's a good thing. You want to meet with him. You want to kick the tires. At this juncture, you're not ready to say that this turnout, this energy that he tapped in New York is good for the party yet.
Oh, no, listen. I mean, I think that when you can increase the electorate particularly as it relates to parts of the electorate that came out in significant numbers, which include the South Asian community in many parts of New York City, and certainly younger folks under the age of 39 in New York City. That is absolutely a good thing. And of course, he should be credited with pulling off that kind of campaign that reached so many folks.
But the tension here, if I'm hearing some possible tension, is, as you know, the Democratic Party has had a hard time with some of these, whatever you call them, democratic socialists, insurgents, more liberal, energetic candidates, even when they do what you just referred to. So we have a history here from Bernie Sanders, some of the way the AOC or members of the squad were treated, and now some of the apparent reaction where people are wondering, is there room in the tent? Not saying that I mean, you have a lot more power than him, not saying you would endorse the whole platform, but when his platform is affordability, ideas around democratic socialism, raising the tax rate in the city of New York, free buses, a different type of foreign policy, if we simplify, but much more harshly critical of the Israeli government, say, than I think the congressional leaders have been in terms of approaching the entire conflict. Is there room in the Big Ten of the Democratic Party for that right now, or for you is that TBD?
Well, certainly we're a Big Tent party, and I think what I'll say in terms of the House Democratic Caucus family is that every single member of the House Democratic Caucus, from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez all the way to Representative Jared Golden, and everyone in between, progressives, New Dems, and Blue Dogs, we in the House, we represent the gorgeous mosaic of the American people. That's a good thing. Now, I think what we have to do is make sure that we can more intimately communicate with the American people, that we understand their challenges and their...
I can't.
Yeah.
Ari Melber, you know, so he's an MSNBC host, and his politics seem like good, but not, I mean, not Mehdi Hassan or maybe even Joy Reid or something, like people that had been on the show before, or on the network before. But that was like, you can tell he's uncomfortable with how they're scuttling this energy. Like, it's a gift right in front of them, and they won't take it. And it's because of corruption. And I don't know if this has ever been clearer to the public. And also, like, at the beginning of the interview, he goes, I want to know how he's going to implement this. Dude, Bill de Blasio froze the rent multiple times. Mamdani can do that easily.
It's incompetent that you don't know already.
Yeah, and in terms of funding... Yeah, in terms of funding what he's trying to do, like the free bus thing, it's because he's been very clear, raising the corporate tax rate from around 7% to what it is across the river in New Jersey, which is 11 and change. That can be done if Hochul or whoever's, if Delgado ends up winning that primary, whoever's governor, that's what they're going to have to agree to, although maybe actually it would be the next fiscal year, so it would still be Hochul, I should say. That's a question for Kathy Hochul, because all she has to do is basically say, okay, I'm going to work with the mayor and not try to undercut him and make sure that his promises are fulfilled. That's not a question for Zoran. That's a question for Kathy Hochul, but he would never ask that because this is just a way to smear him as unrealistic. And what happened to vote blue no matter who, huh? The Democratic Party voters overwhelmingly by 12 points made Zoran their nominee, and you have the leaders of the party undercutting him, and it says everything.
Let's take a look at the comments to this video just very briefly. The top comments: we need new leadership in the Democratic Party, says the first. Hakeem, quote, Trump is bad is not the answer, you gotta do something else. Next person: I'm sick of the Dem solution, just wait till the next election. How did that work out? Next person: held out high hopes for Hakeem Jeffries, but find him woefully uninspiring as Schumer, who I don't find inspiring at all. And then just another one: y'all are going to have to get rid of AIPAC if you want that big tent to work. Exactly. You cannot include AIPAC. And that's a lot of Democrats. I mean, majority, I would think. We have to primary all of them. Anybody who has taken Israel money is not going to be good on any of this stuff. It's clear as day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just also lays bare how, flawed the thinking that Democratic Party politicians don't know what's popular is. They see what's popular, they know what's popular, and they actively resist it. They actively are antagonistic to it. And when Mamdani wins, they're going to be fighting tooth and nail behind the scenes to make sure his agenda is as impeded as possible, while on the front end using him to fundraise around the country. That's going to be like their exact strategy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what's fascinating is to see Melber asking a question that I think is way more connected to the base than anything Hakeem Jeffries is saying. We played that clip of her name is Jennifer Welch. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, right. Yesterday, and I've seen their podcast before. They do good work, but they're fairly mainstream. Get people to vote for Democrats. I don't know if they would consider themselves socialists, right? But them basically being extremely critical of leadership in a way that I'm hearing from people who are lifelong Democrats who did not like Bernie Sanders, Hillary people, Biden people, whatever. I don't know. We need new leadership. These old people have to go. It may not be ideological for them, but they sense it too.
The Democrats for years now have been telling their base that Donald Trump and the Republican Party under Trump is an existential threat to democracy and everything that, the liberal base loves about America. And then Trump wins and they're just like, well, I guess Trumpism is the new thing now. And they even capitulate to them on a number of issues, immigration being one of them. And then just expect their base to go along with it. They've created same thing we were talking about earlier with the Republican Party creating a monster with their base wanting to go after all these supposed pedophiles and pedophile rings out there. The Democratic Party has created the monster with their base by telling them that Trump was a threat to democracy in this country, which is actually true. But the Democratic Party wants to now just go along with some parts of Trumpism and just give up. And the base is like, are you kidding me? So, in that sense, they created a monster with their own base too. But at least the Democratic base, the monster they created there is based in a reality and are angry about something real and substantial.
This graph here from Owen Winter.
We showed this yesterday.
But just look at how, first of all, Mamdani extremely close with lower income working people to an incumbent with the massive name recognition of Cuomo, and then middle income, and then that lead loses out to Cuomo. Yep. I mean, this is their worst nightmare. It is that somebody can get both of those folks, the professionals that are typically like, say, Lander. It helped out there, especially like that's the coalition that Dem leadership doesn't want to see is sort of professional liberals and more working class social democrat type folks that they're terrified of it.
Brad Lander, he can do whatever he wants to do. He's setting himself up to be Mamdani's number 2 if he wins. But if he chooses to take his politics national, I will canvass for this man across my district in New York 10 if he primaries Dan Goldman. And we should be seeing this in a variety of different districts, including Hakeem Jeffries' district. It was Jabari Brisport, right? That we were showing earlier in terms of...
Ben Farah, yep.
That's the crossover with his district. That would be great. He should primary him too. And
just one final point on Lander. I've said this before, but he's the model that he showed, I think, is even more important than Zoran, because I think like Chiose, Jabari, Dem socialists have charismatic people.
Right.
It's progressive, the sort of institutional progressivism that needs to be the link to really empower that and not stabbed in the back, frankly. And Lander played his role perfectly. And then you see how formidable that is when that doesn't get divided based on that side of the coalition deciding that we can't play ball with this farther left stuff.
And that's the other thing that I think we need to also focus on from a national perspective is how do we get these matching fund systems in other parts of the country? Because part of why Zoran he's a phenomenal candidate and as charismatic as hell, and has great instincts and knows how to message and campaign and all of that. But part of why he was able to get over the finish line is that when you have these matching funds and he met that goal and then got the millions that was able to like get his word out, it creates this positive momentum that gets people on board who would have otherwise been disengaged because they thought this is not even possible for him to win. So much of what is terrifying to the Democratic establishment right now is that it's now been shown, whether it's AOC or other members of the squad or Zoran, no, this kind of politics is possible. And once you win, it's an it creates this inevitability that it's an energy people want to be a part of. And if there's more of these matching funds to combat the influx of corporate money in other cities, municipalities, districts, and states around the country, this is how we try to claw back the explosion of dark money in our politics after Citizens United. And I hope that other folks, and it's not in ranked choice too, that's a big part of it. But for me, I think even more, well, no, ranked choice is a big part of it because Lander, that was instrumental to his act of solidarity. So ranked choice, but I would say even more importantly, the matching fund thing across the country is the lesson organizers maybe should take away from this.
One final thing. This just reminds me of the way Zoran needs to enter the system is when Trump came out. So before the RNC in 2016, there was all this talk of there's going to be a coup and Ted Cruz is going to do something like that. And Trump's going to speak on the last day, but what's going to happen before then? So Trump comes out on the very first night and does this. Because
usually they hide the nominee until the final night,
exactly,
right?
But he puts it to bed. This is what Zoran, and I think Zoran's doing this, but I just want to play this moment.
I'm muted.
So you know what song's played, and he comes out with this silhouette here, and says, "Actually, Daddy's home."
Here, wait, I'll play a little sound effect. There he is. There he is.
Yeah, what's up?
All right. Yeah, Zoran needs to do that for sure.
Just a shot-for-shot remake of that, please.
But they do have something in common in that they can make simplistic policy brands like resonate. I mean, build the wall was a joke, but that's what he was saying over and over. Freeze the rent, build the wall.
These party establishments are alienated from their bases, and that is an opportunity. And I think, ultimately, I saw Giannis talk about, we have to be very careful because the Democratic Party elites are never going to actually give in, and they will prefer Trump and the Republicans winning to this. They will split the coalition intentionally to keep people like Zoran out of power. And we have to keep that in mind, and I think figure out a way to be strong and just ice them out of the paint and get them out of here, whether it's somehow doing this to capture all the parties nationwide, or it is to build up an apparatus that's so big that the DNC becomes irrelevant.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We can get excited about Zoran, but I'm more inspired by this.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.